There is a strange silence that comes after you lose. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind where the world stops and everyone understands your pain, but the quiet kind. The kind that sits beside you at night when your phone is face down, the room is still, and the dream you once spoke about with so much confidence suddenly feels too heavy to even say out loud. And in that silence, a question begins to rise. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I gave everything I had. Maybe this is where the story ends. I know that place. I know what it feels like to look at your effort, your hope, your late nights, your private promises, and wonder if any of it meant anything at all. Because failure does not only break our plans, it touches our identity. It whispers, maybe this is who you are. And that is where we have to be careful. Because one of the easiest mistakes in life is confusing one painful chapter with the whole book. We take one loss, one rejection, one closed door, one season where nothing seems to work, and we call it the ending. But life rarely ends where we think it does. Sometimes what feels like defeat is only the place where the old version of us runs out of strength, so something deeper, quieter, and more honest can begin to rise. I used to think winning meant arriving somewhere, a number, a title, a moment where the world finally looks at you and says, yes, now you are enough. But the longer I live, the more I realize winning is not always a loud arrival. Sometimes winning is simply refusing to let the darkest moment become your final definition. Sometimes winning is waking up one more morning and saying, not with excitement, not with confidence, maybe not even with hope, but with one tired little breath. I'm still here, and I'm not done. That may not sound heroic, but it is, because the real battle is rarely the one people see. It is not always fought on stages, in public victories, or in the moments where everyone claps. More often, it happens quietly inside the human heart, in that small space between giving up and trying again. Nobody applauds you for choosing not to quit when you are alone. Nobody gives you a trophy for surviving a week that almost broke you. But those moments matter, because the soul is not shaped only by success. It is shaped by what we do when success feels far away. Think about a seed underground. From above, it looks like nothing is happening. No green, no blossom, no proof, just dirt, darkness, and pressure. But beneath the surface, something is breaking. And maybe we misunderstand that breaking. We think breaking means destruction. But for a seed, breaking is the beginning of becoming. The shell has to split before the life inside can move toward the light. Maybe some parts of you are not breaking because you are weak. Maybe they are breaking because they were never meant to carry your future. The identity built only on approval. The confidence that disappeared the moment things got hard. The dream that was secretly more about proving your worth than living your truth. Life has a way of stripping these things from us, not because it is cruel, but because what is fragile cannot carry what is real. And I know that does not make pain easy. When you are in it, pain does not feel like wisdom. It feels unfair. It feels personal. It feels as if the universe has turned its face away from you. But sometimes, much later, you look back at the very season you begged to escape, and you realize it was teaching you something comfort never could. Patience, depth, humility. The difference between a dream you say you want and a dream you are willing to become strong enough to carry. Because every meaningful victory asks for transformation. The person who begins the journey is rarely the same person who can finish it. Maybe that is why the road feels so difficult, not because you are being denied your future, but because you are being prepared for it. I used to want the breakthrough without the becoming. I wanted the harvest without the long, invisible season underground. I wanted the answer before I had learned how to live the question. And when things did not happen as quickly as I hoped, I thought life was saying no. But maybe life was asking something deeper. Can you keep walking when there is no sign? Can you keep your heart open after disappointment? Can you stop measuring your worth by the speed of your progress? Can you trust that slow growth is still growth? These questions are not answered with words. They are answered with your life, with what you choose after the door closes, with how you speak to yourself after the mistake, with whether you still show up when nobody would blame you for disappearing. And maybe that is the hidden meaning of "it's not over until you win." It does not mean life will always give you exactly what you want, exactly when you want it.
It means the story is not finished just because this page hurts. It means you are allowed to lose a round without surrendering the whole fight. It means failure can be part of the path without becoming your destination. Most people imagine perseverance as something loud, a clenched fist, a dramatic speech, a moment where you stare at the storm and declare that nothing can stop you. But most of the time, perseverance is quieter than that. It is opening the laptop again after the last thing you created did not work. It is walking back into the gym, the classroom, the business, the conversation, the dream. Not because you feel powerful, but because some honest part of you still cares. And that is enough. You do not have to feel ready before you begin again. Sometimes you begin in the rain. Sometimes you rebuild while your hands are still shaking. Sometimes courage does not come before the step. It arrives because you took it. So be gentle with yourself. Not lazy, not dishonest. Gentle. Because shame has never been a good architect. It cannot build a life. It can only build a cage. Responsibility says, "I can learn from this." Shame says, "I am this." And those two sentences lead to completely different futures. So do not confuse your exhaustion with your destiny. Do not turn one painful season into a permanent identity. Do not decide, in the middle of the valley, that mountains no longer exist. A valley is not a grave. It is a passage. And sometimes the way through is not to solve your whole life at once, but to lower your eyes to the next stone, the next step, the next morning, the next small, honest act that still belongs to you. Maybe today, winning does not look like everything finally working out. Maybe it looks like resting without quitting. Maybe it looks like forgiving yourself enough to try again. Maybe it looks like choosing patience over panic, honesty over hiding, one steady breath over the voice that says you are finished. Because you are not finished. Not here, not now. Not while there is still breath in your chest, and a quiet part of you still listening for the next sentence of your life. So do not close the book on yourself too early. Do not mistake this dark page for the ending. Keep going, gently, slowly, quietly if you must. But keep going with the dignity of someone who understands that winning is not always loud, and endings are not always what they appear to be. One day, you may look back at this part of the road and realize it was not the place where you were defeated. It was the place where you learned how to stay, the place where you learned how to rise, the place where you stopped waiting for life to prove you were worthy and began living as if your worth had been there all along. And when that day comes, you will not need to shout. You will simply stand there, breathing in the quiet morning of your own becoming, and you will know it was not over. It was never over. Not until you won.